This week I learned, even if it's a very, very faithful book adaptation, people just can't be happy. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another weekly update, guys, as we are into the second week of August now, and lots of fun new things are happening on the channel. We're going to begin like usual, guys. Let's go ahead and dip into what am I reading this week. Well, I did finish Jade Legacy. Now, I know people are kind of waiting for an update on that. If you aren't on the Discourse, you don't know how I feel about it. I did finish it, and while I will say that while I'm still not a fan of the narrative choice that Miss Lee took to get there, she did get there. The ending was phenomenal. It was very, very good. Second half of the book as a whole was really, really good. Now, I will still say that this is probably my least favorite of the series, but it had the most emotional moments and it had the best ending out of all three. So it's one of those I do really wish that she'd have made this like a 5-book series and slowed down, then I think some of those emotional moments would hit even harder, because there's just some things where you weren't spending enough time with characters and too many years were going by and you weren't really getting as attached to them as you did the characters in those first 2 books. But I am very, very happy with the trilogy as a whole. Very happy that I took Jake Bishop's advice to go ahead and move it up, because I did really enjoy it quite a bit. I've read some really great trilogies this year, and this one just kind of gets added to that. So I really am happy that I did it. I'm very excited to talk to Miss Lee in September. We're going to be talking, and I got lots of questions I want to ask her about the series. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with it as a whole. I think it's another great trilogy. And I will say that I've heard some people say, oh, they still think they're enjoying it, but they think it's kind of overhyped. I think it's both underrated and overrated. Does that make sense? Like, I mean, the amount of stuff I've heard on BookTube the last 3 years about this series, obviously it has some big shoes to fill. But I think it pretty much did meet a lot of those expectations for me. It was just different enough. I'm still not ready to call this a fantasy series, because I mean, like, the magic is just so small, I think, in this. And I have people that disagree with me in those, but for me, it's just like, yeah, I mean, this is fringe urban fantasy, I think, because it's like you basically have some people that just have like a little bit of superhuman abilities, I think, before I would go as far as to say it's a full-on magic system. But that's a discussion for another time, I guess. But for those who were worried last week when I was saying that the book was feeling like a disappointment, I am still disappointed with the narrative choice that she chose, the time skipping, but I am still very much happy with how the series ended. And if she wanted to revisit that, now I knew there is Jade Setter of Xianlun, which is like I think like a 100-page story or something like that. And I do have that on digital, and I'll probably get into that early next month. But yeah, if she wanted to revisit this world, I wouldn't be mad. But I am anxious to see what she does next, what world she creates next, because I think that she at least has gotten my attention to say I will try whatever she does next, and I'm very excited to do it. Next up, guys, I did finish. Yes, I finished The Green Mile. I started that right after I finished Jade Legacy. Guys, I read this in 2 days. This is the first time I've read this since it was coming out as serial novels back in the 90s. And I think I read it even faster than I used to, just soak up each one of those on release day when they came out. It's so good, guys. It is so good. And I think this is one that's like, this is a book by King that is just so great, and you never hear anybody ever listed in like their top 10. And I mean, I don't know when I finish doing if I ever finish doing my Ranking Stephen King series, I'll be anxious to see if it finishes in my top 10. Such an amazing story, emotional too, guys. I mean, I will not lie, today at work I was trying not to break down into tears finishing the ending while at my desk at work. Or I guess a better phrase would be I was just trying to make sure nobody saw me, because yeah, I mean, the last 50 pages of that book are just an emotional train wreck is what it will make you, really. So if you've seen the movie, the book's even sadder. It has even more emotional resonance at the end of the book. There's some things that the movie does do well. I will say that is probably the most faithful adaptation of a Stephen King book ever. I mean, down to like something like brutal grabbing Percy by his ears. I mean, it's down to the very, very just little quirks that book has. The ending does actually have an extra heart punch in it that you weren't really getting in the movie. So if people think because it's such a faithful adaptation you don't need to read it, I disagree. Please read it. It's a beautiful, beautiful book, and I think you will enjoy every single minute of it, guys. But how about what am I going to read? Because I didn't expect to finish The Green Mile so quick. But, I mean, really, you just can't stop. And it's really not that long of a book. For King, I mean, under 500 pages. It's really not that long for him. And it's just, it's so quick. I went ahead and started this today. Now, as you've heard me saying recently, I was very, very excited to read The Godfather for the first time because I've seen the movie about 1,200 times. And read the book it's a lot of fun because you see those moments that you recognize from the movie, but it's also like a lot of added stuff. So I'm kind of treating this in my head as like the director's cut. That's how I always do because you got it's hard for me, it'd be even possible for me to not picture those actors as these characters now and those voices in my head, obviously. But I'm surprised at how fast paced it is. I mean, look, I'm not really that far into it, about 70 pages, and I was surprised that the very famous horse part has already happened. So I don't know how much this is covering from Godfather 1 and 2. I think there's parts of both of those in here. I always assumed that parts of Godfather 2 were from the Sicilian, but I don't know. I don't know all that stuff. Anyhow, I have been told that parts of Godfather 2 are in this book as well. But I am very excited to spend any time I can with the Corleone family because I feel like I know them inside and out because of that movie. But now you're getting the book, you get to see a deeper dive. So I've had some people tell me the book's way better. I've had some people say the book's not as good. Right now I'm enjoying it for what it is. And like I said, treating it in my head as like the director's cut of the movie. That's what I'm kind of doing. I'm having a great time with it, but not far enough in it yet to say how I feel. But I really have liked how it started off, and his prose is actually pretty good. I'm actually liking a lot. Now there was one really uncomfortable sex scene, but anytime you deal with Sonny and apparently his huge schlong, for lack of a better phrase, you are going to get some interesting descriptions of those things. But I've went on record about guys writing sex scenes a lot, and there's this. It's few and far between about how many authors are good at. So I'm going to continue that this week. Hopefully I can finish that up. Guys, I did also kind of start The Forgetting Moon. If you watched my book haul this week, I talked about starting The Forgetting Moon by Mr. Durfee. Just a couple chapters. I'm just, reading like a chapter before bed or something like that. I got so wrapped up in Green Mile, I didn't actually do that afterwards. But that's just something I want to finish by the end of the month because, look, it's a big boy. But really, all I've got left this month, guys, is The Godfather and that. So I'm really ahead of schedule here. And I think that after I finish The Godfather, I'll really go all in on this. And that'll leave you with hopefully some extra time. I have some extra time in the month. It's like I don't know if I want to start, dipping into my stuff for September. So I do have like a little list of if I have time. I'm thinking about doing Crown Tower. That's the first Rhaenyra Chronicles book by Michael J. Sullivan. I wasn't really feeling Legends of the First Empire. I think I just need some Royce and Hadrian back in my life. And those are the prequel books for Rhaenyra Revelation. So I'm thinking I might pick one of those up because I think it could be something that could be a nice quick read before I get into the stuff for September. But let's see how long it takes me to get through this bad boy. Because the first chapter of Forgetting Moon, I was like, oh my gosh, info dump city. Not in a bad way, just like, oh my god, these characters are talking about stuff I have no idea. Now I know over time this stuff will make sense, but at first you're like, there's so many names and lands and regions and characters, and you're like, oh my god, what is this? So, but I'm excited about where it's going. I'll say that chapter 2 or 3, really awesome. Really, really good. And guys, I don't like nautical stuff, and that's been the best chapter in the book so far because, you got merfolk. I'm never going to see a merman, So very good stuff. I'm really liking whatever it is. Give me real good Faithful and the Fallen vibes, but maybe a little more brutal, which is hard to believe because I never really thought that Faithful and the Fallen was PG, but maybe PG-13. This definitely feels R-rated, and I'm excited to continue it, guys. That's really all I got planned to read. Let's talk about this week on the channel. Did do a couple of things. I do like to go outside of my comfort zone every once in a while, guys, and talk about movies and music and video games and things like that. Because I did that before this, so I can't really call it outside of my comfort zone. But when I can tie it back to a book, it's really easy. And if you guys don't know, I haven't really been talking about it a ton on here because I was nervous about it. I love Sandman, The Sandman by Neil Gaiman. It's a comic that has really, when I read it in high school, it completely changed my life. It was something where it was like that watershed moment where I realized that comics really can treat you like an adult. I was really just into still my bright, colorful superheroes and stuff, and that was just something so different. And it really changed the way that I look at comics. So this is an adaptation, guys, I've been waiting for since high school. So I wanted to talk about the show, the adaptation on Netflix, and how faithful I felt like it was to the comic, and kind of talk about the comparisons between the two. And of course, all the comments want to talk about is they're mad that I'm not more mad about the diversity castings. And I say in that video, guys, I don't care about stuff like that. If it doesn't change the character, it doesn't change the story, I don't care. Now, when it changes the story, like Idris Elba playing Roland, that changed the story of the Dark Tower. That's a really, really big deal. I will say something about it. If it's something like Lucian being changed to Lucian, I'm like, what does it change? What does it change about the story? And that makes some people mad. But, I realize now that even if it is a super, super faithful adaptation, people are always going to be upset about it. I think it exceeded my expectations. Did they change some things? Sure. Do some characters not look like they look on the page? Absolutely. But I still got to take that this is 95% a faithful adaptation. I was very excited by what we got, and I've been waiting for this adaptation since high school, and it's better than I ever could have imagined it to be. So I was excited about it. I wanted to talk about that. And, there are other people there that are excited as well, but I guess I kind of overreached when I said that, it seems like casual non-readers and readers of the comic are liking the show the same amount. It seems like apparently a lot of the readers are still quite upset. To me, it's just like I never expected to get this faithful, so I'm just going to enjoy that it's really staying that true to the story. I don't care that Gwendolyn Christie is playing Lucifer like everyone else. I mean, to me, the story doesn't change at all, so it doesn't bother me as much. But, if those things bother you, that's your business. You're allowed to do that. I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong. I'm just telling you it doesn't bother me. And that's kind of how I always have been on this channel, guys. I will tell you how I feel about it, and I'm definitely not going to invalidate your opinion on it. But Sandman, I did like to talk about it, and that's why I did it. And, whenever you talk about something that's outside of books, I'm going to get some new viewers on the channel, some new eyes. That's always a lot of fun. But, some of the comments, not so fun. Always fun is to do a book haul, and I did my book haul for July of 2022, and a lot of fun there. I think I had to thank Brian Lee Durfee and that for giving me the idea to unhaul a bunch of books to the local prison. That was a great, great idea, and I hope that it is actually giving some people some brightness in a dark situation. That's why you want to do that, so they can visit other worlds than these, right? Yeah, I think that they would rather visit other worlds than these in that situation. So that, and of course all the great things that I got, including new trade paperbacks from Brian. But watch that if you guys missed it. Because I think book hauls always create a lot of good conversation, because I talk about some stuff that I haven't read, and I love getting more and more recommendations off of those things. I went into the world of Ice and Fire, guys, for the first time. I actually reviewed a George R. R. Martin book on the channel. Now, it was Fire and Blood, which I know is not part of the main series. It's very much a Targaryen history book, but is what House of the Dragon is going to be based on. So I want to get that review out before House of the Dragon starts, and I was really blown away on my reread about just how damn good it is. And I kind of want to talk about that. I wanted to get back to making my overly long, obnoxious reading excerpts that I would do, my introductions to some of these stories that I love, and that's why I did that. Even though I said I feel like reviews are a dying art, no one really cares about book reviews anymore. It's something I'm always going to do, and so I'm probably going to try to do like one a week at least. And as far as a Song of Ice and Fire stuff, I think from now on, after this, I just plan on doing just the 5 main books right now. For anything extra, it just kind of depends on the reaction. Honestly, guys, it needs to get a better reaction than the Tolkien videos have for me to really go into some stuff off of the main path. But I never say never on these things. But I am looking forward to covering maybe my favorite fantasy series of all time. It's in the discussion again, guys. I don't know. Maybe I will be updating my top 10 fantasy series again next year instead of waiting 2 years in between them. But news for the channel, guys, we did cross 75,000 subscribers, so that's always a fun moment. Again, like I've said, subscriber count in the end doesn't really matter, but it is always it's always fun when you hit a nice milestone like that. And I guess the next stop is 100,000. I can get my silver play button, and then I can retire, right? Yeah, well, we'll see. But speaking of 75,000 subscribers, I'll go ahead and talk about next week plans, guys. Tomorrow afternoon, noon, Houston, Texas time. Go to timeanddate.com and just type in Houston, Texas to find out what time it is where you currently are. But I will be doing my live stream for 75K like I promised that I would. Just ask me anything. You guys, like I said in my the community board, if you guys just want to get on there and ask me who my favorite new kid on the block is, that is your opportunity to do it. And I think you'll be surprised by my answer. But I'm always excited to do a live stream for you guys. As with all things with that, as long as you guys are asking me questions, doing your super chats, all that stuff, I will definitely keep talking to you. The kids will be here, and the kids do dictate how that stuff ends sometimes. So tune in earlier rather than later if you can, because I don't know how long we will be going. And going somewhere, we'll be going back into the multiverse, guys, and we'll be talking about Rose Madder by Stephen King. I think a very underrated book, but almost damn near a forgotten one. I don't think I ever heard anybody mention this one, much less always just putting it in their bottom third of Stephen King books. But I enjoyed it on my reread. In fact, it was just so much stuff I didn't even remember. So the book didn't really stick in my memory very much. So I think I'm guilty of underrating it quite as much as everybody else. So I'm excited to talk about why I think it's worth your time and another great addition to the multiverse, because there are some connections there. And then I'll try, guys, to get to the one I didn't get to this week, because I didn't expect to do the Sandman video. So it kind of took place, was the books that I want to try again. Now, I don't know how many books that's going to be, because like I said, I don't DNF a ton. And if I do, it's not anything I ever really want to try again. So it might be a little bit of a shorter video, but that's okay. Not everything has to be 20 minutes on the channel, right? But before I go, guys, let's go ahead to a little TV and movie talk. Now, we binged Sandman over the weekend, so not really much else to talk about there that I didn't already talk about. Wife and I did start the second half of the final season of Better Call Saul. We've done 3 of the new episodes, so 2 left that have already aired, and then, of course, the series finale next week. I wanted to get caught up before then, because we like to binge this show because it's just so good. You can't wait weekly. But it's become really, really hard to avoid spoilers. People are just blurting spoilers out now the minute that an episode happens. I had to unfollow the Facebook page because they will flat out say like goodbye to an actor when they're not on the show anymore. And I'm like, well, I would like to not know that that character died and or left the show. So I'll go back and refollow the Facebook page after it's over. But guys, Better Call Saul. Again, if you guys have just missed out, no better time, because you can binge the hell out of it now. If you like Breaking Bad, guys, it stands right next to it. It's damn fine television, and Bob Odenkirk is a treasure. Before I go, guys, I do want to talk about this Flash Batgirl situation. Now, I railed on what Warner Brothers has done to DC last week. There's just kind of something I want to kind of touch on here, is usually with stuff like this, I'm like, I mean, quit trying to start this boys versus girl war kind of thing. But I think there's a point this time. They are talking about how comes Batgirl and supposedly Supergirl got canceled without ever being released, and there was no production problems. There's no headlines with the actors or actresses or any of that stuff. But yet Ezra Miller cannot stay out of trouble, and The Flash is still coming out. Now, with me, it's like, okay, how much of a sunk cost is this? I mean, we're talking about these movies aren't cheap. If they're going to keep just like, canning complete movies, obviously that's not a very good business model. But I do think that the people that are upset about this, they have something to complain about. I've been told that the cinema score in test screenings for Batgirl was exactly the same as Black Adam, and that movie's still coming out. The Flash, like I said, Ezra Miller gets arrested, it seems like, every other week and just does something more and more chaotic, and yet that movie's still coming out. So I think that there's, I think there is an axe to grind this time. It's actually a good question, Warner Brothers. If you are serious about saying, well, we're only going to release movies that we feel like meet our, that's what the new CEOs say, that movies that meet our quality, I think you might have some explaining to do. Either that or The Flash is a secretly awesome movie and just no one's expecting it. Right now, I don't think anyone's expecting it to be an awesome movie. But I'm just saying, the people that are upset about that, I think they've got a point this time. That is really kind of sketchy on the behalf of Warner Brothers. But I stopped trying to figure Warner Brothers out years ago, guys. But that's really pretty much all I've got for this week. Me and my kid, my oldest, we did watch a sci-fi flick over the weekend. We watched Starship Troopers. Now, yes, I did fast forward during that one scene because he's not quite as into redheads as I am yet, but just leave it at that point. With me, it's like violence and bad language. I don't care about that stuff. But, the sex stuff, it's still kind of uncomfortable. And I know it would make him uncomfortable as well. So, I was able to fast forward through that movie. But yeah, he was actually like impressed how much Halo actually borrowed from. He's like, to look at the guns, to look at the ships, to look at the helmets, all look very, very Halo. So he enjoyed that part quite a bit. But what a fun movie that is. It's nothing like the book, guys. But you know what? I like both. But yeah, it's nothing like Heinlein's book. In fact, Paul Verhoeven, I'm pretty sure he said he hated the Heinlein novel. So he kind of wanted to make the movie like a satire of it. But they're both great. They're just very, very different. But yeah, it's a fun sci-fi flick that has no business being as good as it is. And that might be one of those things where I'm like, I can't look at it without a little bit of nostalgia because I think I saw it at just like the right time. But sometimes I love a good turn your brain off and just have a good fun sci-fi romp. And that's really that. I mean, pretty much a bug has to suck your brains out like in that movie to really just like, enjoy everything and not be like, that's ridiculous. It's just a fun flick. And I really do enjoy it, and my kid liked it quite a bit as well. But guys, that was my week. Why don't you go ahead and let me know how your week is going? Go ahead and drop in the comments and let me know, and I will talk to you there.